When you study the Second World War, it's easy, to get lost in tanks, battles and strategy maps. But real survival often came down to the smallest details. Staying dry, staying warm, and, just staying alive. Soldiers were not just fighting enemies. They were fighting the elements. Snow, rain and mud didn't care if you were a decorated officer or a fresh recruit. Yet, throughout Europe and the Pacific, men found ways to make the harshest weather tolerable, even when the front lines offered no cover. Today, we're going to look at 5 soldier shelter hacks from the Second World War that actually worked and are, surprisingly, still practical for modern survivalists or historical reenactors. By the end of this, you'll understand not only what soldiers did, but how you can adapt these strategies in real-world scenarios or in your historical studies. Soldiers often relied on natural insulation to keep the cold out. In the freezing winters of the Eastern Front, heating was a luxury. Soldiers quickly learned that the ground was their biggest enemy. Digging shallow trenches or using natural depressions in the land allowed them to create a barrier against wind. Then they layered leaves, pine needles or straw across the floor. This simple step created insulation between the body and the frozen earth, reducing heat loss dramatically. A practical application today would be lining a sleeping area with dry vegetation or even using natural moss in wooded areas to create a warmer, more comfortable surface. Historical accounts from Russian and German units show that soldiers who took the time to prepare their sleeping area survived nights that others did not. Improvised tarps and ponchos could double as effective roofs. Waterproof tents were scarce, especially in rapid advances or retreats. Soldiers learned to make their own shelters using rain ponchos, packs, or even canvas strips. By tying these between trees or over low branches, they created slanted roofs that allowed rain to run off. The key was keeping it off the ground and maintaining airflow underneath to prevent condensation. For a modern prepper, this is a reminder that survival gear doesn't need to be high-tech. A simple poncho or tarp, properly angled and secured, can create a dry sleeping space in minutes, just as soldiers did in Normandy or the Ardennes. Mud and snow could be turned into structural support. It sounds counterintuitive, but soldiers often use mud and snow to reinforce shelters. In muddy conditions, walls of a dugout could be packed with wet soil to create sturdier, insulated structures. In snowy conditions, trenches or foxholes were sometimes lined with snow bricks or piled snow walls to reduce wind exposure. This principle can be applied in modern survival or reenactment scenarios. If you're in an area with heavy snow or soft ground, shaping the environment itself to reinforce your shelter can provide insulation and stability far better than any portable gear alone. Fires had to be carefully managed to protect both warmth and stealth. A fire could save a soldier from hypothermia, but it could also give away a position. The trick was small, controlled fires with heat retention techniques. Soldiers would dig a small fire pit and surround it with stones, or even use a reflector wall made of logs to direct warmth toward their shelter. Some use simple metal sheets or canvas to focus and contain heat. Today, understanding the balance between warmth, safety, and concealment is invaluable. For example, a small reflective barrier behind a campfire in cold weather can double the heat felt in your sleeping area while keeping smoke and flames controlled, just like soldiers did. Sleeping arrangements maximize body heat and minimized exposure. The arrangement of soldiers in sleeping quarters was more than random. They huddled together, often in alternating head-to-foot patterns, to maximize heat transfer. Blankets or overcoats were layered strategically. Thicker clothing underneath, lighter layers on top. Many troops would place their packs or gear as walls to block drafts. The lesson for modern preppers is clear. A small space, shared body warmth, and layered insulation drastically improve survivability. Even in individual survival situations, laying out layers to trap your own heat while blocking wind is a direct lesson from World War II soldier tactics. Studying these shelter hacks reveals a profound lesson about adaptability. Soldiers didn't always have the ideal gear, yet they used what was at hand: terrain, vegetation, mud, snow, and small fires to survive. By observing how they adapted to extreme conditions, historians and survivalists alike gain insight into both human ingenuity and the realities of frontline life. Applying these lessons today isn't just about reenactment. It's about understanding fundamental survival principles that are timeless. These 5 hacks, insulating with natural materials, creating improvised roofs, using mud and snow for structure, managing fires carefully, and optimizing sleeping arrangements, are more than historical footnotes. They are practical tools for anyone serious about survival or history. Next time you face a rainy, muddy or snowy environment, remember that soldiers hundreds of miles from home use these exact techniques to survive the deadliest winters. If you found this guide valuable, don't just leave it on the page. Subscribe to The Prepper Historian for more in-depth explorations of survival history. And share this video with fellow history buffs who want practical, actionable lessons from the past. Every soldier's hack has a lesson for today. Make sure you and your community don't miss it.